Oh, damn it!
Behind every smooth flight, there's a history of heartbreak, tragedies that forced aviation to rethink everything. These aren't just stories of loss, they're lessons that have saved millions of lives. Today, we'll uncover 5 plane crashes that changed aviation forever. From unsolved mysteries to miraculous survival stories, these events reshaped how we fly. Stick around, because you won't look at air travel the same way again. Let's start with the 5th story, the deadliest aviation disaster in history. On March 27, 1977, at Los Rodeos Airport in Tenerife, 2 Boeing 747s collided in a fiery explosion, killing 583 people. How did such a tragedy unfold?
20th anniversary of the deadliest aviation accident in history. It happened on the small Spanish island of Tenerife off the coast of West Africa. 2 jumbo jets, 1 American, collided on March 27, 1977.
It all began with a bomb threat at Gran Canaria Airport, Tenerife's largest neighbor. Flights were rerouted to Los Rodeos, a much smaller airport unequipped to handle the influx of traffic. Runways became parking lots as aircraft awaited clearance to return to Gran Canaria. Heavy fog added to the chaos, which reduced visibility to almost zero. KLM Flight 4805, preparing for takeoff, mistakenly believed it was clear to depart. The captain was under immense pressure to stick to a schedule and avoid exceeding crew duty limits. At the same time, Pan Am Flight 1736 was taxiing on the same foggy runway, unable to see the KLM plane ahead. The miscommunication between air traffic control, the KLM crew, and the Pan Am crew turned this into a ticking time bomb. When the KLM plane roared down the runway, the Pan Am crew spotted its landing lights at the last moment. Desperately, the Pan Am pilot attempted to veer off the runway, while KLM's captain tried to lift off prematurely. But at their immense speeds, it was too late. The 2 planes collided in a fiery explosion. The investigation revealed critical failures in communication. Vague phrases like, "We are now at takeoff," caused fatal misunderstandings. Pilots were also reluctant to challenge authority in the cockpit, reflecting a rigid hierarchy that left little room for questioning senior decisions. Out of this disaster came sweeping changes. ATCs worldwide adopted standardized phraseology, eliminating ambiguous terms. Cockpit hierarchies were dismantled through crew resource management training, which is a cornerstone of aviation safety today. Thinking that something as simple as a misunderstood phrase could cost hundreds of lives is terrifying. Yet today, those lessons ensure safer skies for us all. Next up at number 4 is a story that sounds like something out of a nightmare. 2 planes, thousands of feet in the air, heading straight for each other. On November 12, 1996, over Sharky Dadri, India, this horrifying scenario became reality. Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763, a Boeing 747, was ascending, while Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907, an Aviation IL-76, was descending in the same airspace. The result was a catastrophic mid-air collision that killed all 349 people aboard both planes, marking it as the deadliest collision in aviation history. The skies over Delhi were notoriously congested at the time, and the radar system's guiding flights were outdated. But the crux of the disaster lay in miscommunication. Kazakhstan Airlines pilots flying the descending IL-76 misunderstood their assigned altitude due to a language barrier.
Keep the 150. Do not descend.
Accelerate, Sanyo!
Get to the 150 because of the 140. Don't run!
They descended to 14,000 feet, 2,000 feet lower than instructed, and into the path of the Saudi Arabian jet climbing to the same altitude. The collision was devastating. The tail of the Kazakh aircraft struck the Saudi jet's fuselage, tearing it apart. Debris rained down over the villages of Sharky Dadri, leaving no survivors. This tragedy exposed glaring flaws in international aviation. India's ATC system was overwhelmed by increasing traffic and limited technology. Language barriers only added another layer of complexity. The final nail in the coffin, however, was the absence of onboard collision avoidance systems in both planes. Within a few years after this incident, traffic collision avoidance systems became mandatory on commercial aircraft worldwide. These systems alert pilots to potential collisions and provide instructions to avoid them. Additionally, air traffic controllers began enforcing stricter separation between planes in congested skies. Our third story asks a chilling question. What happens when the technology designed to protect us becomes the reason we're in danger?
Nearly 2 years ago, Air France Flight 447 mysteriously crashed in the Atlantic, killing 228 people. Now, with the flight recorders finally recovered from the ocean floor, we know more about what happened in the final harrowing moments of that Rio to Paris flight. Here's Nancy Cordes.
On June 1st, 2009, Air France Flight 447, an Airbus A330, disappeared over the Atlantic during a flight from Rio de Janeiro to Paris. All 228 passengers and crew were lost. No mayday call, no warning, just silence. It took nearly 2 years to locate the wreckage, and when the details emerged, they revealed a chain of events that began with a tiny, frozen tube. The investigation showed that the trouble started when the plane's pilot tubes, which measure airspeed, iced over mid-flight. This caused the autopilot to disengage, throwing control back to the pilots. Here's where human error took center stage. Faced with conflicting data and warning alarms, the crew's responses were not only inadequate, but fatally flawed. The captain was on a scheduled rest break, leaving 2 co-pilots in command. When the autopilot disengaged, one co-pilot pulled the nose up, contrary to standard procedure, causing the plane to stall. For over 4 minutes, the aircraft remained in a stalled position as alarms blared. Neither pilot took the correct action to recover. The Airbus plunged into the ocean, killing everyone on board. The crash exposed gaps in pilot training, particularly in responding to high-altitude stalls. The reliance on automation, ironically designed to enhance safety, had dulled critical flying skills. Today, pilots undergo rigorous training to handle automation failures. Meanwhile, Airbus redesigned pilot tubes to prevent icing, and aviation authorities introduced stricter guidelines for sensor reliability. Taking the second spot is a story that starts with a fiery explosion and ends with lessons that changed how planes are built. July 17, 1996, TWA Flight 800, a Boeing 747, had just taken off from JFK Airport in New York, bound for Paris. 12 minutes later, it exploded mid-air, killing all 230 people on board. Was it a bomb, a missile, or something even more sinister? The truth shocked everyone. The world initially believed terrorism was to blame. After all, this was just a few years after the first World Trade Center bombing, and tensions were high. But after a painstaking 4-year investigation, the truth came to light. An electrical spark in the center fuel tank ignited flammable vapors, causing the explosion. This wasn't an attack. It was a maintenance issue that had gone unnoticed for too long. TWA Flight 800 became a turning point for aircraft safety, particularly in the maintenance of older planes. The NTSB recommended sweeping changes, including installation of fuel tank inerting systems, which replace flammable vapors with inert gases like nitrogen, enhanced wiring inspections and stricter maintenance protocols, improved training for engineers and maintenance crews to identify risks before they escalate. Today, every commercial jet flying the skies has safeguards in place to prevent a repeat of this tragedy. At number 1 is a story that continues to baffle experts, haunt families, and captivate the world: the mysterious disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. On March 8, 2014, this flight on a Boeing 777 with 239 people aboard vanished during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Nearly a decade later, it remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. How does an aircraft simply disappear in the modern age of advanced technology? What makes this incident so haunting is not just the loss of life, but the complete lack of closure. Unlike other tragedies, there's no definitive cause, no black box that tells the full story. Families of the victims are left with questions that may never be answered. The flight's last known contact with air traffic control came just 38 minutes after takeoff, when the crew acknowledged a routine handoff to Vietnamese controllers. Moments later, the transponder stopped transmitting. Radar data showed the plane veered off course, heading west instead of northeast toward Beijing. Military radar tracked the aircraft for over an hour, suggesting deliberate actions. After that, the plane disappeared over the Indian Ocean. Fragments of debris, confirmed to be from MH370, were found washed up on beaches in the western Indian Ocean years later, but they offered few clues. Was it a mechanical failure, a catastrophic event, or something far more sinister? Investigators have explored every possibility, including pilot suicide, hijacking, and electrical failure, but none have been proven conclusively. The search for MH370 became the largest and most expensive in aviation history, involving dozens of countries and costing over $150 million. Yet the main wreckage has never been found. This tragedy highlighted a glaring flaw: the lack of real-time aircraft tracking. Today, systems like Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, also known as ADS-B, are becoming mandatory, ensuring planes are tracked globally. Okay guys, as a bonus for sticking around, we've saved a story that shows just how resilient humans can be in the face of disaster. On July 19, 1989, United Airlines Flight 232, a DC-10, suffered catastrophic engine failure. The explosion severed all 3 hydraulic lines, leaving the plane virtually uncontrollable. Hydraulic systems are the lifeblood of an aircraft, controlling everything from steering to brakes. With all hydraulics gone, the pilots couldn't turn, climb, or descend using conventional methods. It was a scenario no crew had ever trained for. Captain Al Haynes had used differential thrust at this moment. By adjusting the power on the 2 remaining engines, they managed to guide the aircraft towards Sioux Gateway Airport in Iowa. As the plane approached the runway, it hit the ground hard, cartwheeling in a fiery explosion. Miraculously, 185 of the 296 people on board survived. This incident became a case study in emergency handling. It spurred innovations in engine inspections, pilot training, and emergency protocols. In the face of impossible odds, the crew proved that quick thinking and teamwork can save lives. And that's a wrap. So, which of these tragedies do you think had the greatest impact on how we fly today? Are there any aviation mysteries or stories we missed? Share your opinions in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to check out my recent video, Epic Emergency Landings You Won't Believe Happened. Keep flying high with us, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and be ready for more stories that defy the skies.